Okay, good morning, everyone. We're here today for the Village of Ayremont for the Community Design Review Committee meeting, Tuesday, August 9th, via Zoom at 11 a.m. And our first application is the Rolling Hill Subdivision at 71 Church Road. It's a two-lot subdivision, minor subdivision, final plat for chairman's endorsement. They had received their planning board approval, and that we're here to just true up everything as the final meeting before the chairman will be signing off on the subdivision plat. I believe for the applicant, we have Matt Ryan on, and I think that's it. I don't know who else. But for the record, everybody has the resolution. They had in the minutes, it discussed at the planning board meeting, there had to be a map note. The village engineer, are you satisfied with that map note on the final plat?
Yes, they added the note verbatim what we had asked for, and so that was the only remaining comment. So we're okay to move forward.
Okay. Lou or Bob, if you have any comments? No?
I do.
Yes, Steve. Hi.
Hi. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I was just a little concerned. No, we were not on this matter when it was before the board, and we're just looking at it now for, I think, meeting all conditions of the prior plat approval, correct?
Yes.
And as best I can see by looking at it this morning was that this is it's a subdivision in the R35 residential zone.
Yes.
Is there something unique about this piece of property that maybe I'm not seeing? Because usually a map note that you're looking to put on is requiring someone, if they want to develop this piece of property consistent with the R35 zone, like a single family home, requiring them to come back to the planning board for site plan approval. And that's generally not the case. If a subdivision for residential property is made to develop the property with a single family home, generally no site plan is required. Unless, of course, our code has a specific requirement. I'd be surprised if they did, though.
Okay. Lou, do you want to explain or you want me to explain it? Okay. What had transpired many years ago, I think in 2005 or 7, this was before the planning board had received approval, but they never went to the final chairman's endorsement like here to subdivide. When at the planning board meeting, there was discussions in the public hearing, because when that property had its subdivisions, it was more than 2 at that time, I believe. There was a concern about some wetlands on the property, conservation easement, but those maps were never signed and filed. I believe the developer went under and it was never completed. They came back with a different plan, and based on the comments from the public hearing, this is what was discussed and approved with the prior attorney that was on, the engineer, and everyone at the meeting. So they requested that the map note be put on, which is what we went back and forth with to make sure the proper wording was on there. And that's why it's on there, so that anyone that comes to develop the property, because there are other items besides a home that you could put on a property with a special permit, they wanted to make sure it got site plan approval.
Well, yeah, I think a special permit would need site plan approval.
Right.
But
so
if you're building a home, a single family home, you don't.
Well,
Okay,
I think they also wanted that on there because of the conservation easement part, as well as the wetlands, correct, Lou?
So
But that was on the prior map, and this was all discussed at the public hearing.
Right. I look at the plat that's going to be for subdivision. There's no indication of any wetlands or any
Well,
any
not
building
on this,
envelope or anything.
because if they go to build, they're gonna have to come to planning to.
yeah, the when the applicant submitted this application for a 2-lot subdivision, we asked them what their intention was to do on lot number 2. And previously there was a subdivision that was granted approval with I believe it was a little cul-de-sac with 4 or 5 lots. They're not proposing that anymore, nor are they proposing to even put a home on it. So we said, well, we don't understand what the purpose of the subdivision for. You're not looking to do anything. And we were told that all they wanted to do was cut the one existing home off and leave the other parcel vacant. They just want to sell off the lot that exists there with the house. So they did not even intend to show a home on a 2-lot subdivision. So our response was, if that's what you want to do, then anything that you want to do on this property has to come back before the planning board. So they do not want to put a home on it. They do not want to put to do a site plan. They're not proposing anything other than to sell off that lot. And that's what prompted us to have that note put on the plan, so that any further development of that property has to come back to the planning board.
Yeah, man, I understand that. That does make a lot of sense. I'm just concerned that it's not in compliance with the law. It seems to me that once you have a residential subdivision, you don't need site plan approval to build a home on one of the subdivided lots. That's just basic.
Then if that's the case, then we would ask the applicant to show a proposed single-family home and to go through the subdivision process. They did not want to do that. So they just wanted to sell that lot. So that's what prompted the note. So our opinion was, if in fact that you do want to do a 2-lot residential subdivision and that you do intend to build a home on it, that you show it on the plan and show the utilities and everything that's required to do a 2-lot residential subdivision. They clearly indicated they did not want to do that. They do not want to build on that. They just want to sell off the lot that's there.
Yeah, I'm just thinking. Basically, you make a subdivision. He stays in one of the house that's already there. He has now a buildable lot next door. Unless there's something very unique about the lot, someone can come and put a single-family home in there. Look, if they try to do 2 homes, of course, but if it complies with zoning in the R35 zone, they don't have to come back to the. As a matter of law, they don't have to come back to the planning board for further approval of a single-family home. That's the only. Now, I don't want to throw a monkey wrench in this right now, and it very well may be fine the way, because I don't know the whole record, but I just think in the future we just need to be mindful of the fact that we can't alter the village's law by our determinations through our resolution process. So I mean, as a practical matter, I just don't know if it's going to hold up. Is my position. I mean, if it's something other than a single-family home, you're absolutely correct. It's going to have to come back to the planning board. But a single-family home, unless there's some provision of the law that makes them come back for site plan approval, they don't have to normally. But look, if the applicant has agreed to this, I think we're not imposing this upon them. We're on firmer ground.
Okay. Matt, do you have any comments to? Okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think from the applicant's point of view, I mean, I think they're fine with the note that we have added
Okay.
here. I think they wouldn't want to have to change the plan. So I think we're good as is.
Okay.
Okay.
So with the subdivision, it's a little different than just having a site plan signed. There's a subdivision plat review application checklist and an application that you have to go to the drainage agency with, which I will scan and email it to you. The Mylar has to be signed by the head of the Rockland County Drainage Agency first. Then you would bring the Mylar and the copies of that, plan with the Mylar signed, and I would have the chairman sign the Mylar and the plans, and then disperse that.
Okay.
Okay, so I will send that to you after the meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And as far as I know, I don't think there's anything else that we need to discuss on this project unless anyone has any other comments. Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, our next application is Bonus of Muncie LLC at 100 Route 59 for the special permit for a proposed school of special instruction. They have their proposed layout plan, and They did some agency responses as we discussed at the planning board meeting a few weeks ago. And I believe we have Mr. Baum and Mr. Sarajan on to discuss this.
Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
Did you get my comment letters that I got when I was out yesterday?
Yeah, I just saw them this morning. Well, I have 3 letters that came
Right.
in. Tolman Fire Department of August 6th, Fire Inspector of August 8th, and Fusco Engineering of August 8th.
That's correct. I just wanted to make sure you received them. Thank you.
I have them. Thank you. So I wasn't at the planning board meeting, and I know you had a healthy discussion, and we put together this supplemental narrative to address all the agency comments, as well as the comments of the village's consultants. And I was just looking at some of the responses. And I don't know what you want to start with first, but I think Fusco Engineering would be a good place to start.
Okay.
So I guess when I'm sort of shocked that it seems like this is being treated like it's a new construction, and you know there are many elements that you want to look at that aren't being changed by this application. Why we need a long form EAF when we're most likely a type 2. I know there's a position here that we're an unlisted action, but are we really going to go through a notice of intent and a coordinated review and do a major seeker review where we're just basically changing a tenancy from one use to another use? And although they may be separate from a zoning standpoint, the uses are very, very similar. We're looking at a SHPO review. I don't know why we're looking at a SHPO review when we're not putting a shovel in the ground. We're not changing anything. I don't know how we're going to impact any archaeological significant facilities. Why DOT has to do a review, I don't know. We're not talking about a significant number of additional vehicles. As a matter of fact, I think the vehicle traffic is going to be a lot less with this use than an office use that's going to bring in more people that will be driving their cars at more times of the day. And we're not talking about big buses. We're talking about small van-like buses for the children that are probably smaller than any delivery vehicles. And if we would have put a regular tenant in here and he gets 3 deliveries a day of a box truck, that impact wouldn't be looked at. So we're not creating any impacts that are going to be any more significant than any use that is permitted as of right. So I'm not really sure why we're trying to do this huge site plan and make a mountain out of a molehill, so to speak. So I'd be interested to hear why the CDRC feels that a site plan is required, or at least, you know, Fusco Engineering, the planner.
Well, certainly. So your contention all along has pretty much been, well, you know, we're not really changing the building. The building is there, but I think where we disagree is, you know, that the use is pretty much the same use that's there. We don't really think that. We think that that a proposed school may in fact have significant impacts potentially versus I think this was a place for counseling, rehab. Those are 2 different uses, and typically this village board does send, when there's proposed change of use, even though you may not physically be disturbing the building, afford the DOT an opportunity to review it to see if they have any issues. So our recommendation is that it still be sent to them. That's consistent with what we've done in the past. And we think that there are while I agree you're not changing the footprint of the building, we think that there are some additional impacts that need to be addressed. We put them in our review comments by an amended site plan. Understanding, of course, that you're not changing the footprint of the building. We get that, we understand that. But I listed some things that are in our review that we feel need to be addressed on an updated site plan. And it's kind of consistent with the fire department's comments and the county planning. So that's our opinion. I mean, I can go through them one by one, but a lot of them are pretty consistent with some of the other agency comments.
Okay. So if we could go through them one by one, I would really,
Okay.
I'd really like
So,
to know.
provide a long form EAF. Our office feels that that this is an impact, again, physically, shovel wise, maybe not, but it's an entirely different use from what was there before. So we're asking that a long form EAF be prepared.
But it's a permitted use. I mean, I know it's a special permit use, but it's a permitted use in the zone. So we're totally consistent with the zoning designation. And the impacts, if you look at the EAF, if this was an office building, the number of employees that you're going to have in this office is going to be significantly greater than what we're bringing in here. So I'm just kind of at a loss as what are we trying to find by doing a long form EAF? What impacts are we trying to identify that a long form is going to flush out, and that, you know, a full-blown secret determination and a coordinated review is necessary? Because I'd like to know why you don't think it's a type 2, as we indicated in our narrative. Why doesn't it fall within that basket?
Our office doesn't think it's a type 2 because of the use. If this was a use that was similar to the use that's there, perhaps maybe, but we feel it's an entirely different use, and there are potential impacts that should be identified in a long form EAF. Sorry, we disagree, but that's how we feel.
Well,
as far as
can I
SHPO,
just
that
ask-
you're
can I
right.
just ask-
If there's no physical change to the property, then what's there is there. So I think we may be able to work and rescind that comment. There is no physical disturbance to the site, although the EAF short form does identify there are some potential archaeological significance. At this point, you're not proposing to disturb anything. I mean, we can argue all day, but our opinion is that we need DOT review. We've done it before where there's a change of use. Maybe the building is there, we understand that. But we allow the DOT an opportunity to give their input, because although the entrance is there, we acknowledge that there may be potentially different peak impacts to traffic as a result of the change of a school to an office where people routinely come in throughout the day sporadically. So we feel that they should have that opportunity to review it. That's our opinion.
you know, I can appreciate it, but I would.
So I guess at some point in time, the board
mean,
has to,
can we
the board
quantify
has to tell us what their opinion is, if they agree or disagree, and, you know, maybe there's some other input from the board members and or other consultants, but that's our opinion.
I mean, can we quantify, like, what sort of change do you anticipate by the change of the use that makes you think that the DOT is going to want to review or even make changes to the entrance as a result of the change of use?
Honestly, if the morning traffic due to the change of school warrants a turning lane to allow vehicles to get in and out, that's a possibility. Maybe not, but we won't know until they get a chance to look at it. But there's certainly a change in the intensity of traffic during peak certain times of the day from a school versus the existing facility that's there now. So that's one example.
I'd like, and again, I mean, I appreciate the comment, but I'm trying to say, you say, yeah, there's going to be a change in peak. What is the change? If I have an office building and I've got 40 or 50 employees coming in the morning and leaving at night,
40 or 50
And I-
employees. If this is something that this board has done. It's a change of use that's on a state highway. And quite frankly, the DOT may say that there is no impact, but we want them to have an opportunity to review it to see if there's any issues. That's typically what this board has done.
No, and again, I understand. I'm just trying, what is the impact that we're trying to identify? In what way is the impact from the buses and the staff members that are coming at peak hours?
I
going
can't
to be
answer
more
that for the DOT.
significant than an office use or a warehouse use?
Can't answer that for the DOT. So that's why I'm asking it be referred to them so that they can have an opportunity to look at it. And like I said, they may say they have no impact and they may agree with you. They may
I know,
not.
but your comment here is there will be a significant increase to the number of vehicles and or buses entering and exiting the property, especially during start and end of school day. What are those significant increases?
Well,
Nothing's been identified.
110 people or whatever the number of students plus the faculty arriving within a 20-minute period for the start of school is entirely different than, you know, people attending counseling, one person every 10 minutes or 15 minutes for 4 people per hour over the course of an 8-hour day.
Jeff, if I was a businessman and I wanted to rent out 8,000 square feet for my employees and I had 50 employees coming in, I could do that tomorrow with no further review, none whatsoever. And we know what the impact's going to be. I'm going to have my employees come in the morning, peak time, and they're going to leave at night, peak time. We've indicated to you in our narrative, these are 65 to 75 barrels. They're going to come in 4 or 5 buses, mini buses. That's the extent of that. And then we have staffing, which the staffing is never going to exceed 10 at any given moment during the day. So in the morning, you know, we're looking at 10 vehicles and four buses. So I'm just trying to understand what is the significant increase to the number that is not going to exist by a use that's as of right. And I'm just trying to nail down what this potential significant is. Can we quantify it in a number?
I can't, but I don't really know if it's our responsibility to. It's a state highway and there may very well be a change of traffic pattern, and we afford the DOT an opportunity to give their opinion on that.
Okay. All right.
I
So-
did send your comments to the DOT after the first submission as well.
I'm sorry, Suzanne.
I did send your, I initially sent it to the DOT when you went to planning, but I also submitted the new submission for CDRC and planning
All right.
with your comments and answers to them as well. So they have both,
Okay.
because they had not responded by the time we had the last planning board meeting. They
Okay.
usually take longer than most agencies.
Yeah, the DOT is sometimes, as we know, very difficult to
Yes.
get a response out of. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So I guess, okay, so moving on to your engineering comments.
Onto the engineering comments. So we're of the opinion that we need a modified site plan. Understanding, of course, that the building is there and there is no proposed change, at least exterior to the building. We still think that a modified site plan is required. And there are other agencies that concur with us. And it would be a limited modified site plan. Obviously, we don't want you to reinvent the wheel with what's existing, but we think we need some supplemental things shown on the plan, such as fire lane access, an actual striped fire lane with no parking for the fire department, which I believe they're going to be looking for.
I think that's on the site plan.
I don't know if the site is fenced or not, but fencing certainly should be considered because there are a lot of children on the site. And we do need to show drop off and pickup lanes, even if they are minibuses. We also have a concern how you restrict buses, full buses from arriving on the site. So I know that the applicant is clear that only minibuses will be coming, but when the site is approved, if the site's approved, and regular buses start showing up, how is that enforced? Because the site plan has been granted based upon minibus and only minibus arrivals. So that I understand that makes a difference because a full-size bus is much bigger. And we also have turning lane requirements. I did see the plan that was submitted, but I don't believe it, at least I haven't seen an actual physical plan which shows the village's turning radius requirements shown to scale on the site plan so that we can verify that trucks can get all the way around the site. So those are 3 examples of how we think an updated modified site plan is important. To add a 4th, I believe that there's lighting out there, but I don't know if the lighting is sufficient and it meets current code requirements. So we want the applicant to take a look at that and propose a modified lighting plan if it's required. So those are a few of our concerns that we think warrants a modified site plan.
Okay. I still fail to see how, with the exception of maybe a bus drop off and pick up and see how that's going to be monitored. Whatever is there is there. Fire trucks get in and out today. But we'll take a look at it. I don't know what more to tell you. If the planning board wants us to do it, we'll do it. But I mean, our big thing here is we want to try and get this occupancy for September. And if we have to go through the full-blown site plan process, it's obviously not going to be accomplished in time. So, if we have to go that route, is there some sort of vehicle that the village will work with us, allow the occupancy, subject to some sort of temporary certificate of occupancy while we do the site plan process? Is that something that we can talk about doing? Anybody? Lou, is that something that's doable under the village code?
No, I can't issue it without an approved site plan. I can't issue a temporary CO or any CO of any type for a special permit use.
Well, if the planning board is so inclined to say, hey, we'll grant the special permit subject to the applicant coming back with a site plan, and within the next 60 to 90 days, and they can have a temporary CO for those 60 to 90 days. Is that something that the consultants would be agreeable to, or would anybody have a major objection to that?
I would have to check the code to see if it's possible to do that.
And on the consultant end, that's strictly a matter with the village board and their attorney. So I can't answer for that.
Stephen, but Robert?
At this point, I can't make any representations that the village is going to waive their site plan approval process without some kind of compelling basis to do that. But I think as long as we keep on moving forward with this application, I don't think we need to reach that question at this point. And correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, but I thought at the last couple of meetings I've been on this particular application, a representation was made that we were going to be receiving a modified site plan, and at least with how the present layout of the facility was acceptable and applicable to be used as a school. I don't think we've received that yet, and I was looking for it today, unless I missed it, which is possible.
Well, we gave you the floor plan.
Yes, and yeah, you admitted that you gave us the floor plan and that you would modify it and tell us how these rooms are going to be used for a school setting, and I didn't see that yet. So, and I say I may have missed it, but I just didn't see it.
All right. No, I don't think we showed on the plan how it's going to be used, but I mean, that's an operational thing. Obviously, it's probably an administrative building department thing. I don't know if it's much of a site plan use, but we can certainly provide a breakdown of how those classrooms and other offices are going to be used by the school.
Yeah. The site plan we did get does have square footages, was just what we've requested to try and determine some sort of occupancy number for the school. And I've seen occupancy numbers from 60 to 75 to 119. And I actually calculated out all the rooms and the square footages using an educational 20 square feet per person. And you have a potential occupancy of 280 people there.
Right.
So
As we indicate in our narrative, it's 65 to 75 girls, and then staff with a maximum, I think we've indicated 30, but because they're going to be coming in on a rotating basis, there won't be any more than 10 staff members on site at any given time. So I think there's more than adequate space, but we'll show how the space is going to be used.
Yeah, I'm not, are these high school aged girls that are going to be using this facility?
I think it was 14 to 18, isn't that what?
I mean, are there any,
14 to 17.
I'm not an expert on how schools are supposed to be laid out and what requirements they have, but every school I've ever seen has some kind of common areas for exercise, for recreation, for food, cafeteria. I mean,
Well,
is there going to be outdoor space for recreation, or is that required? It might not be required. I don't know.
well, this is not your traditional school. It's not a school of
clearly
general
not.
English instruction. It's a school of special instruction. It's more geared towards vocation and skills and therapy and counseling and other sorts of electives, the arts and those types of programs that
It's very, I mean,
small groups of girls that need a little bit of 10 to 11 care that have been really severely impacted by the COVID-19 crisis and the impacts on school. And, as we indicated, they don't do well in traditional high school settings. This is a school that's going to be focused on not the standard educational, but structuring programs to help these girls in terms of specialized and group counseling and self-development programs and specialized programs to help them in, I guess, in the workforce as they, age and prepare to do different things in their life. So.
and as part of it, is part of the layout going to include, or does it need to include for a school, recreational space for physical education and for basic things like cafeteria space? I mean, I don't know, but I don't. If you're going to have that, I think it should be designated somewhere. If it's going to be outside, maybe in a parking lot, that's fine. Also, I just don't know if the planning board is going to be asking questions about that. I think you need to have answers.
That wasn't anticipated. Outdoor recreational area was not anticipated. They're probably doing some forms of maybe yoga and other types of recreational activities that will occur inside the building. And there are spaces, there are some rather large classrooms. There is a large space that could be used as a cafeteria for the girls to eat in shifts. But we'll indicate on that floor plan that we submitted how these different rooms are going to be used, so you can get a sense of how the space is going to be utilized by the school.
Yeah, because I mean, I assume that the state of New York has certain requirements with respect to that. Just as long as you're hitting everything, it's fine. Just show us how it's going to be done, just so that we can move this thing forward.
Okay, no, we can certainly do that.
Thank you.
I have one more question. Is the space ADA compatible right now?
That I cannot tell you, Lou.
Because if I see two exits, one of them is up a stairwell, which means that's not ADA compatible, which leaves us with one actual exit.
Yeah, I think there might be a ramp there. I'm not sure though, but obviously we're not looking to change or shortcut any building or fire code requirements for the space. So whatever needs to be done has to be done. We understand that.
Are there consistent with that handicap parking spaces on site now? And is that number sufficient for the school as well as the commercial building together? So again, that's a site plan comment that would be addressed on the site plan. The answer is it may or it may not. I don't know.
Yeah, well, obviously, I assume there's handicap spaces available on the plan. But I guess we'll have to show you where they are and how many there are.
Yes, thank you.
Do we need to go over the Tallman fire letter or the fire inspector comments?
I think they should be
Well,
read in.
Yeah, I mean, we can note them for the record. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. That's something that I guess the building department is going to have to make a determination from a building and fire standpoint, whether the two means of ingress and egress are adequate, or whether a third means of ingress and egress has to be provided. I don't know what the answer to that is. And I guess we can go back and we've done the turning analysis already. We can add the Pierce 20 tower truck to it. And hopefully it fits. I mean, again, what's there is there. If this school doesn't go in, and the property continues to be used as is, and for other permitted uses as of right, whether, that Tower 20 Pierce truck can get through there, I don't know. It probably wasn't around at the time the site plan was done.
No, because that site plan's from 1996, and I think the tower truck, this is the new one, was about 2 years ago.
Yeah, so we can certainly go back and redo that turning radius for the larger school buses, just in case one is ever used to address the concerns of the CDRC, and we'll take a look at the Tower 20 scale.
Based on the site plans that I have, all the handicap parking spots are in the front of the building. And I know there's a handicap elevator and a ramp on the front of this building.
All right, we'll take a look at the handicap parking and access. Yeah, and in terms of the inspections by the fire inspector, we have no objection. We can schedule an inspection at mutually convenient time for the fire inspector and Lou to go in and take a look. So we're happy to set that up.
John, it's Suzanne. I'm looking at your comment number 5 in your letter about resubmitting to Rockland County Planning. Is that what, if they resubmit an amended site plan, is what you're saying? Or at that point, if they do, that's when we would resubmit it?
I would say yes. If we get
Okay.
an amended site plan, because,
Okay.
they're very clear in their letter that they want one, and it should address as many of those comments as possible.
Okay, thank you.
All right, well, I guess the feeling or the thing I want to impress upon, the members of the CDRC as well as the planning board is that the operation of this school, as it's been explained, is very similar in function to the counseling and services and educational programs that the Lexington Rehabilitation Group supplies for their clientele. And again, we're not talking about traditional school setting. We're talking about a very specialized type of program for this certain segment of girls that just need additional help. So it's not your normal traditional type of school, and it's more like a vocational specialized program. And they provide many of the same services in terms of the educational counseling, development programs, group programs, family programs that the Lexington Center supplied. But we'll do our best to get you all the additional information that you feel that you need, so that you could, feel good about making a positive recommendation to the board and being satisfied that we're not jeopardizing anybody's health or safety or welfare. Okay, I guess that's it.
Unless anybody else has any other comments, Lou, John, Steve, or Bob?
Well, fine. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Okay, I thank everybody for your time.
thank you. Okay, our next application is Macomb of Halpern of 17 North Ayremont Road LLC at 17 North Ayremont Road for a conversion of a former hotel to a school building with a dormitory and the addition to the side of the building for an assembly room, and a proposed sketch site plan had been submitted. We also received comments from the village planner and engineer, which were distributed, and a comment letter from Tallman Fire Department for the record. And I believe we have Mendy from Fast Forward on as the expediter, Rachel Baris, the engineer. And I think Paul Baum, you're the attorney for this as well, correct?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Suzanne, before we go on though, I do have the Tallman Fire Department letter. What were the other correspondence that came in?
It was a memo from Fusco Engineering. That was from August 3rd I had sent out. Do you want me to resend it to you?
Yeah, I didn't see that.
All right, I'm just gonna minimize my screen. Just give me a second, okay? All right, I just sent it to you and Rachel in case you both don't have it. Oh my
So-
God, that was me.
So the other than the Fusco and the Tallman Fire Department, was there anything else? I'm sorry.
No, that's all I received thus far.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if Rachel is here. I know she was going to have Rhonda sit in because she was also going to be.
No,
she's
I
not.
need it. I
She's
finished
not.
Chestnut Ridge. And this took a while, so I'm here.
Okay, great. So I think Rachel has been working very closely with Mendy, is much more familiar with the project than I am. So rather than me say anything, I think let's just turn it right over to Rachel to explain what's the project and go over her plan.
Sure. So we are here today for 17 North Airmont Road, which pretty sure everybody knows it as the hotel that's behind the old Friendlies. And at this time, the applicant is seeking to convert the building to a school with a dormitory. And it would fall under the section of the code that's school with a dormitory under the educational institution with accessory housing portion of the code. The lot is zoned VC. So it is permitted to have that. The school and dormitory are for 200 students, ages 14 to 18, and all the students would live on campus, so there's no busing required. And based on one space per 300 square feet of floor area for educational area, plus the one space per two students enrolled over 18, we were assuming half of the students would be over 18. Over 16. We would need 150 parking spaces. Then there's also a parking requirement of one space for 4 beds, which would be 50 spaces. So since the students are counted for both the educational and the residential, we're just going with the worst case of the two of them. There are a number of variances that are required. They have been laid out in the information that was provided. And there is a small addition that is proposed on the side of the existing building, and the driveway would be rerouted around the building. And part of the front of the property is being proposed to be changed so that instead of having just a full parking lot, part of it would be changed out and used as a play area to meet the requirements. I think that pretty much covers it, but we do acknowledge that there are a number of variances that are required.
I'm just curious, what is the requirement for play areas? If you know.
So it's not specific as play area. There's a requirement that 15% of the lot area be usable open space. So it doesn't specify that it's play area.
Right.
So 15% of the lot area would mean 17,606 square feet of open space. And we were providing in that front area would be 18,150 square feet. And that's just in that front area where they would be considering it as, accessible to the students as play area. So that's not counting, there's open space behind the parking in the rear of the property in the O&R utility easement. We're not counting that. We're not counting the open space that's between the parking and to the east towards the retreat at Airmont. So we're not counting, there's other open space that's not counted in this calculation.
I assume that's basically for recreational purposes for the students to use whatever.
So it doesn't specify that in the code, but we kind of took it to mean that. And so the space in the front would be usable. So it's not just any lawn space. This is an actual, chunk of land. Part of it we're calling it where we wanted to have a basketball court. And then part of it would just be green open space. But it would be accessible and usable.
And you mentioned code. What code are you referring to? If you know, off
So
the
it
top
was
of your
all
head.
from section 210-119. So it's under A, B, and C. There was different items that they had for requirements. This is for an educational institution with accessory housing.
Thank you.
So this is our first time here. I know some of this is preliminary. It's just a sketch. We wanted to get some initial feedback before we proceeded with the full design.
It's laid out for a hotel, so is that going to be used as a dormitory section of the project, and the addition going to be the academic center?
So my
Or-
understanding is that the first floor and second floor will be converted for classrooms. And I believe like a lunchroom. And then the third and fourth floors will be dormitory use.
How many beds are in that facility presently, if you know?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Oh, and then one other thing is there's
Under 100.
100
Under
beds or
100.
100.
Under 100.
Yes.
There's like a brick hallway that connects the hotel to the restaurant. So we're proposing to cut that off so that they're not.
That's already part of the Panera plan. That's going to be cut.
Okay. Oh, good. Well, we don't want it either.
Yeah, that's there's going to actually be a drive-through there.
Okay.
That's the old Friendlies
Friendlies.
spot? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Panera has their permit, so they have the demo permit and they have their building permit, so they're going to start any day.
They're gonna demo that beautiful building?
Not soon enough.
Lou, is there an approved site plan that we can come take a look at?
For Panera?
Yeah, for the,
Yes.
Paul, I think I actually sent it to you. I got it from Suzanne.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I sent it to Mendy for Panera. What I owe Mendy is he did foil the prior site plan for the hotel, which I don't have down here. I have to, because it's so old, I have to check the boxes upstairs. But he'll get it this week,
Okay.
and I'll forward it to all of you to see what the original site plan was approved for the hotel.
Thanks, Suzanne.
Sure. Lou, there's 9 variances in the narrative. I don't know if you had a chance to look at them.
Yeah, I was just reading them actually.
Okay. So this would go to ZBA and probably ARC, correct?
Definitely.
Okay.
So I guess I can go through my comments with the board, and if so inclined.
Yeah, please.
So under planning, we do think that, again, this is an application where there's a small addition, but mainly an existing building that's a complete change of use. So we feel that this would be classified under seeker as an unlisted action. So we're asking for a long form. The comment 3, I'm just bringing this to the attention of the CDRC, because we've seen this a lot where people come in and want to do a change of use to an existing building. And obviously this building was intended under the zoning for use consistent with what it is, which is a hotel. And now by converting it to a boarding school, it creates the need for 9 variances. So 9 variances seems to be quite excessive for the intended use. So I guess the comment is just letting the CDRC and ultimately the planning board know that, you know, coming into an existing building to change the use, to create a need for 9 variances is something that you want to probably take a look at early on, because I don't know if this building was intended to be a boarding school. I'm not saying that it can't be, I'm just saying that 9 variances seems fairly excessive. So I think the sooner we're aware of that, probably the better. Comment 4 talks about impacts to traffic, but I'm going to say that if this is a boarding school and there is no drop off and pickup, that comment probably does not apply.
Yes, they'll be living there full time, so
So we
any
ask that
traffic is minimal.
site plan, have a clear note that there is no drop off and pickup. All students are boarding on site. They live there. We have a comment regarding the EAF does identify some wetlands, but we don't know whether they're on site or adjoining, so that should be clarified. And that apparently this site is the location of a remediation site or adjacent to, so, but it doesn't really describe it. Under engineering, so the site is existing. So it was a little unclear on the plan whether there was an addition. There obviously there is. I don't think it was labeled as an addition, so we probably should make that clear on the site plan. So we weren't really 100% sure. So we're talking about a significant variance reduction in the total of number of parking spaces required to turn around and add outdoor, you know, play area or recreation area. So we're asking to reduce spaces that we need to provide for additional services on site that are required. So we really need to take a look at that and try to minimize that, because we know we need the parking spaces per code.
So even we were gonna have more of an explanation as we proceeded, even though by code they need this much parking. In reality, the students aren't allowed to have cars and they're living here, so they're not coming and going. So the parking would really be for the staff. So we can
Okay.
provide more of a breakdown as we proceed now with, you know, how the parking is, even this is more than they really need. But to have the parking that's required just doesn't meet their needs for this particular school, since the students won't have cars anyways. So.
And I think the parking requirements are based on a typical school, which is, you know, pickup and drop off as opposed to boarding. So I think maybe some notes on the plans to clarify that this may be a little bit different than a typical school, because it's a boarding school.
Okay.
That I think.
Or maybe you can also, you could bank certain areas, use it for recreation area now, but bank it for future parking if need be. If the building inspector determines that there's an insufficient number of parking spaces, this way it's addressed in the planning process.
Okay, and so moving off of parking to the issue of water and sewer. So, and I know I prematurely put this comment in, and I know typically it doesn't go to health department and the sewer district until we get to planning board, but I just want to make sure it doesn't get, you know, lost, that at some point it has to go to them for impacts to water usage and wastewater. So that's going to have to be done. And again, comment number 4 will not apply as long as it's clearly noted on the plans that this is boarding. There is no busing layout that's mandatory, because they will live on site. We're asking to evaluate the existing lighting conditions, and we seem to get a lot of these where there's a change of use and the lighting conditions may be from 20 or 30 or 40 years ago. And it may actually boil down to actually seeing the lighting, you know, at night, as to whether it needs to be upgraded or whether it's satisfactory, but we certainly want to upgrade it if it needs to be. We're going to need fire department. Again, comment 7, just to make it clear what is proposed, that addition with dimensions, probably needs some grading and possibly some drainage in that area as you get more detailed. So comment 8 talks about this being a redevelopment site. So at least a portion of the redevelopment area should have some stormwater SWIP components to it under the redevelopment requirements of the DEC. I don't think the whole site needs to, but certainly the portion of the redevelopment where you're expanding and so forth. So please take a look at that, and we're asking you to evaluate the landscaping conditions to see if we need to upgrade anything. We may or may not, haven't seen the site, but we should take a look at that. And the last comment is asking to provide a survey. I don't know if that's been provided, but usually we get the previously approved site plan and the existing survey of the property. That's all our comments at this time.
Thank you.
Rachel, at this time, can you tell us what the square footage is planned for the building addition? Or approximately?
Yeah, hold on one second. Hold on, I just have to pull up the drawing because I only had the width of it. Not the length.
Do you need me to share the screen? Do you want to put it up?
No,
or-
I'm opening my CAD file actually
okay.
because I realized I had one of the dimensions and not the other, so I.
Is it 1 story or 2 stories or 4 or more?
Mendy, do you know how many stories the addition is? The addition is
So
3,200 square feet.
it's going to be 1 story. It's going to be a bit higher than the existing 1 story because the existing are very low ceilings. This is going to be used as an assembly room, so they want a bit of a higher ceiling. So it's not, I don't know if it's going to be like 2 stories in height, but it's definitely going to be higher than the existing first floor.
Should we go over the Tallman fire letter?
Sure.
Dated August 2nd, just some of the questions were, how many stories will the proposed 50-foot by 65-foot addition have? And what will the addition be used for?
Oh.
And we
Okay.
went over that's for recreation, correct?
It's going to be used as an assembly room.
Assembly room.
Yeah.
All right. And the proposed addition should be sprinklered, and if there is to be an additional stairwell, it should be provided with a standpipe. I don't know, I'm just reading it. Will the owners of the school be able to continue to use the northerly rear driveway that exists to the west of the property currently owned by Panera Bread?
So yeah, there might be a right of access that the 2 lots adjoin each other presently, correct? Is there anything in the
Yeah,
deed?
there are some access agreements with Panera. We'd have to look at them. I don't
Okay.
recall if they were exactly, but there were access agreements as part of
The
it.
applicant can put notations to that on their plans.
Okay. Existing fire department connection, the FDC, will have to be relocated when the addition to the existing building is constructed. At such time, it should be converted to a 5-inch stores connection. They are concerned about the lack of adequate parking. Only 79 spaces are proposed where 135 are required. Inadequate parking and access have been chronic problems where other projects have been approved in the past. This may result in illegal parking, congestion, and seriously impairing fire department operations. I think Steve mentioned possibly banking those spaces if that's something you decide to do. A maneuverability analysis for our largest apparatus, the Pierce Tower 20, should be provided. I believe I gave you those measurements, so we would need to add that to the plan. And that was it. So I would assume this is coming back to CDRC with some of the changes we just discussed. Is that,
Now, obviously, this is just a first go round of a concept plan to get the consultants' initial comments to the plan to help us further, define the layout. And we'll review these things and we'll update the site plan and we'll come back with a revised concept plan, or if we feel we're ready, we'll come back with full-blown site plan. So
Sounds good.
did anybody
you.
else have anything?
okay, thank you, everybody.
Okay,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you, everyone. Have a
you.
good day.
Bye now.
Thank you all. Bye.
Okay, have a good day, everybody.
You too.